Back in 2016, one of the big reasons for Brexit that the Brexiteers loved to cite, again, quoting once again the brain of Brexit, Daniel Hannan, infamously said that the trade deal with America would be a massive Brexit prize. In fact, it would make staying in the single market completely silly. This also coming from the same man who would say a week later, I believe it was, that we were not talking about leaving the single market and customs union because only a fool would leave the single market and customs union. There you have the brain of Brexit, Mr. Daniel Hannan. But this was something the Brexiteers constantly talked up. The whole idea that we could have this amazing American trade deal, and oh, wouldn't it be fantastic? Meanwhile, Obama, who was in charge at the time, continuously said, if you did come to us, cap in hand, for a trade deal, don't expect to get one. You would be at the back of the queue because you would not be in America's list of interests to try and sign a trade deal with. America is actively more interested in doing a trade deal with the EU than it is the UK, who apparently left the EU in order to do a trade deal with America. But it has not stopped the Brexiteers constantly dreaming of this amazing trade deal. As soon as Brexit happened, and of course after Trump came in, they said, we've got to do Brexit because Trump will do a trade deal with us. Meanwhile, even though Trump was saying, yeah, I'll do like the best trade deal you ever seen. I don't even know. That's not even a Trump impression. That's a terrible Trump impression. But he was saying, yeah, I'll do this fantastic trade deal. Meanwhile, because of, again, how America works and how it does its trade deals, the entire committee, the Ways and Means Committee that is responsible for doing those negotiations, responsible for deciding who gets first and prime choice, was constantly saying, no, we aren't interested. And bear in mind, this was very much stacked with people who were both Democrats and Republicans. This idea that the US would be desperate to do a trade deal with us has not materialized one bit at all. Even when it was announced that we were joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the new Comprehensive Pacific Trade and Pacific Partnership, whatever, but the Pacific Partnership, we'll just call it, again, just for easiness, was one of the things you will have noticed many of the Brexiteers have said is, you don't understand, because what we can do is us joining this would tempt America back into this trade deal, which would then make a future trade deal to sign with America all that more easier. Once again, showing that they still have not given up on this dream of trying to do this trade deal. But why, you might ask, are they so obsessed with doing this trade deal? Well, there's two real things going on here. First of all, you've got the Brexiteer fantasies and delusions, and also you've got the reality of what's going on in America at the moment, and why they basically do not want to sign a trade deal with the UK. So we're going to go getting into that in a moment. But before we do that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a rotation called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button and the Pony Club down below as well. So let's get into it. So you may have seen here, of course, that one of the big things that was highly obvious for the past couple of days when Biden was visiting Northern Ireland was that he constantly dodged the idea that him and Sunak would be discussing a trade deal. And Sunak, ever since he came into office, has downplayed this, that, in reality, it's not really going to happen. But again, Brexiteers, desperate as they ever are for some, we'll find out, this is just why in a moment, as to why they are, But why is America not doing it? Well, here's the thing. Back in the 2016 race to become president, the one thing that, again, bear in mind, these are people on completely different ends and occupy all sorts of spots on the political spectrum, but they were all unified on one point, and that was, of course, not joining was at the time the Trans-Pacific Partnership before it became the CPTPP, or the Progressive Partnership, as we'll just call it now. So this was seen as a bad trade deal. And it was not only just seen as a bad trade deal from someone like Bernie Sanders, but it was seen as bad by Hillary Clinton and even Donald Trump, because America and American politics has now focused on the idea that we have exported too many jobs abroad. That is a prevailing attitude in America, that they have done that they have given away too many jobs to different countries, and it has been these trade deals that would do it. And of course, the Trans-Pacific Partnership in there would encourage thousands of more of American manufacturing jobs and other things to pick up sticks from America and go to these other countries. And that was a big thing. It is still a big thing in America. It is still very big politically. It has turned a lot of people off this idea of signing trade deals, which might make it easier for US companies to, well, flee to these sort of these different countries, where they are now even recognizing, even the American conservatives are recognizing that actually investing and keeping jobs in America is a sensible idea. The thing is, they do not really want to sort of go down that path and actually sort of do it. They're still very much favoring this neo-market liberalism, free market fundamentalism that they love to sort of preach. But even they do recognize that it's not a vote winner anymore, that they have to say that they want to keep jobs in America. Hence why even they are not interested in joining the Pacific Partnership. That's straight up for sure. And ultimately, I would probably recommend seeing that in Sunak going to America later in the year. I think he might ask Biden to try and join the Pacific Partnership, which Biden would not do. Like I say, the US ain't interested, because the world is realizing that this whole neoliberalism, which a lot of these conservatives love to sort of dabble in, has damaged economies, and it's damaged sort of manufacturing in their own companies, because it's allowed these companies to go into sort of far more less regulated countries to basically exploit almost slave-like conditions to export very cheaply back to their own home countries for a far, far cheaper price than it would be to have the exact same factory, let's say in the UK or even in America. Now, of course, that's the situation in America. That's the reality. But the Brexiteer fantasy is, of course, that if we did this trade deal, not only would it be amazing opportunity because we'd be able to get access to the UK's the America's service industry, but it would also allow us to have this amazing sort of transactional relationship and all these other fantasies that they engage in. But America isn't really going to allow that. It is not going to allow us the deep structural systems that were in place that we had when we were in the EU, when we had access to all their financial markets. That is the straight up truth. It is, this American trade deal is not going to be as good as the Brexiteers have claimed, but it is part, of course, of their free market fundamentals principles. And of course, one of the things that they hope was that doing a deal with America would be allowing them to then lower all these standards, because they could go, oh, well, look, America has far much lower standards. It's got almost little to no regulation, they would claim, because again, you look at sort of America's standards compared to sort of the European ones, the Americans are a lot sort of lower when it comes to sort of those standards. So they would claim, oh, look, they've got all these lower standards, we must match them to boost our economy. It's the same stuff we've been seeing very recently with them crowing about trying to join the Pacific Partnership. It's not just enough, we've got to lower our regulations. It's the exact same argument for trying to get a US trade deal. So ultimately, a US-UK trade deal is not on the books, basically. America ain't interested. And no matter how much Rishi Sunak might try and sort of woo Biden into doing one, he ain't interested. The Americans ain't interested. We are not as attractive as the EU, which they are certainly more interested in potentially doing a trade deal with. But we've also lost a lot of power. Us being in the EU was one of the things that the US used to sort of do to try and get sort of, concessions from Europe. That was one of the big things. But now that focus has shifted very much from the UK to France, even Germany. So we've lost a lot of prominence in just leaving the EU, which we always said would happen. But there you go. So yeah, Biden certainly did, as you can always say, was dodging having that conversation because it's not a conversation Biden wants to have. And it would ultimately, if Rishi Sunak did ask the question, it would be no, not interested. And to be honest, no sort of even future presidential nominee, even Republican or even Democrat, seems to be interested in really doing that trade deal. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, please do remember to click on that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and one notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.